Okay, so you guys looked at the examples of one-point perspective, the realistic ones, the ones in the hallway, and examples of one-point perspective where you're getting a bird's eye view. So now we're going to practice one-point perspective, and what I need you to do is take your free draw paper and fold it in half one way, and it doesn't matter which one because we're going to be folding it in half the other way. You open it up, fold it in half the other way. Okay. Now I'm going to draw the lines down the middle. You guys do not have to do that. It's just so it's easier for you to see on the screen what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to zoom into one section at a time. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off with our vanishing point in the upper right-hand corner. And we're going to label it vanishing point. And I want you just to watch the instructions for this before you start, and then we can pause the video and give you guys some work time. So you're going to take your ruler, and we're going to draw a square or a rectangle, whatever you end up with. But we want to use our ruler, and sometimes I just use either side of the ruler, and then put my horizontal lines in here. Okay, now I'm going to connect every corner unless I draw through the shape. So I'm not going to connect this corner. So what I do is I put my pencil on the vanishing point and I connect it, drawing my line through. If I'm a little bit off of the vanishing point, we're going to lose the one-point perspective illusion. It's not going to look three-dimensional anymore. Okay, so all three of these corners are going to go towards the vanishing point. So at this point, you guys can pause the video and complete this exercise. When you're ready, go ahead and play the next portion of the video. All right, so we finished the first exercise. We're going to continue on with the second. Even if you're not done with this one, I want you guys to watch the instructions for this so you know what you're doing. All right, we're going to put a vanishing point in the upper right-hand corner. Again, this time we're not going to label it. And then I want you to draw 2 circles. Don't worry if they're not perfect, that's okay. And 3 other shapes. So you can do a square, a triangle, and I need one more shape. And here's the rule with this. I need some overlapping, which means in between this vanishing point and another shape, there needs to be one in between. So that way we can practice overlapping. So I'm going to add one more shape. Okay. And whenever you draw in one-point perspective, you always connect the shapes that are closest to the vanishing point first. So I need to connect these first because these are farther away. So I treat triangles the same way I do squares. I connect every corner unless it goes through the vanishing point, or excuse me, unless it goes through the shape. So this one's going to go through the shape, so I'm not going to connect that. Circles are a little bit different. What I do is I put my pencil on the vanishing point and I just push it right over to the edge of the circle, and I stop. I connect that. Same thing here. Push it right over to the edge and I connect it. Now here's where some overlapping will come in. I have my triangle back here. There's a weird highlight on there. There we go. So I put my edge right up to my triangle and I don't start here. I don't start drawing next to the vanishing point. I start on my shape. That way I know as soon as I hit that circle, I have to stop. I pick up my pencil. Same thing here. I connect with my vanishing point. I look and I'm seeing that I'm going to have to stop when I hit that circle. That way it looks like this one's ahead of it. Now with this triangle, I forgot one last one right here. Still going towards my vanishing point. Always going towards my vanishing point. Okay, so then I'm going to connect my circle. This one's not going to hit anything, so I can connect it all the way through. What about this one? This one's going to hit the circle, so I have to start at the shape. Stop at the shape. Stop at the shape. Okay, now this square looks kind of weird. It looks like it's maybe not in one-point perspective. The reason why it doesn't have 2 sides showing is because there's not 2 sides facing the vanishing point. So if you don't like that, make sure that you turn your shape so you have 2 sides facing the vanishing point. Okay, so now you guys can have some work time to do 5 shapes. 2 of them need to be circles and there needs to be overlapping. You can pause the video and complete this exercise, and then you can continue the video when you're ready to move on. All right, so if you're ready for letters, you guys can go ahead and start this section. Again, I just want you to abandon what you've been working on. If you're not done with these, that's okay. We're going to watch this demonstration and move on to the letters. We're going to do one geometric letter and one organic letter. So the geometric one is going to have straight lines and sharp corners, and the organic one is going to have all smooth lines, no straight lines, no sharp corners. So what I do if you have trouble doing bubble letters, I cheat a little bit. I draw my letter really, really light, and then I trace around it. This one's going to be traced around with all straight lines and sharp corners. And then I just erase the letter in between, and I'm ready to go. Once you do that enough times, you'll practice enough that you'll be able to just draw bubble letters without having to do that. But I use that trick if I struggle. Now I'm going to treat this letter just like a square, and I'm going to connect every corner to the vanishing point. This back side, I don't really see it. I have to draw through my letter E, so I'm just going to connect this corner. Then I go on to my next corner right here, and I'm going to connect it. This one right here, I'm going to end up going through my shape so I don't connect it. Always making sure I'm connected to my vanishing point here. Okay, so for geometric, you're just connecting all of your corners. When you do an organic letter, say if we do a letter S, again, I'm just going to draw my letter and then trace around it. Okay, then I'm going to erase the letter in between. And I'm going to treat this like I would a circle. So I put my pencil on my vanishing point, and then I'm just going to slide it over and connect it to the edge. Now, if I were to imagine there's a circle right here, okay? I'm going to do that on both sides. There's a weird highlight. I'm going to try moving my paper around a little. There we go. All right, so then I'm going to push it over here, and I'm going to connect it to the edge. Okay, now I'm not done yet because I've only got the sides. Now, imagine that this were another circle inside of the letter S. So I need to connect the edge here. Okay, this one looks like it could be a circle. Yep. So then I'm going to connect the edge over here. And just like the overlapping shapes, I have to stop when I hit the other side. I wouldn't keep these little circles, and you don't have to draw those in. I just wanted you guys to see why I connect those two edges there. Okay. Now when I put my ruler up here, a lot of times kids want to put a line in here, but because of the curve, I can't actually catch an edge. I would have to just draw it right up to it in perpendicular, and that does not work. So that's all you have to do for the letter S. Okay. So I want you guys to practice a geometric and an organic letter, and then pause the video when you're ready for the next step. All right, so the last thing that we're going to do is complete a practice for your final. For your final, you guys can choose whatever shapes you want as long as they're school appropriate. You can write your name, you can write someone else's name, you can write, you can do numbers. If you have a jersey number, you can do any shape that you want, again, as long as it's school appropriate. So what you're going to do in this section is start off with your vanishing point, and we're going to change it up this time. We're going to put it off center. Okay, so we want objects to completely surround our vanishing point, and I want you guys to plan out your entire piece before you start connecting it to your vanishing point. If I were to draw this circle and connect that first and then try to draw other things in there, I wouldn't be able to draw anything in between. So you draw out your entire plan first, and then you start connecting it to your vanishing point. So I connected my star here to my vanishing point because it's one of my closest shapes. Then I can move on to this circle, then I can move on to the A, right? One other thing that is an option, and it's not required, but it's to chop your shapes. So I'm going to show you guys how to chop your shapes, so that way you guys can choose to do that if you want to. So when I'm saying chop your shapes, it looks something like this. I have all of my letters going towards the vanishing point, except for my shapes. Okay, so all the letters go towards, my shapes are chopped off. So to chop off your shapes and practice that, you can actually go back to your first practice. Okay, we don't have to redraw anything, we can just practice chopping on this. So what I do is if this line right here is vertical, I make sure that where I chop is vertical as well. So this line and this line are going to be parallel or going the same direction. I do the same thing up here. This one's horizontal, so I make sure this one's horizontal. I chop it, and then I can erase any lines I don't need. So if you know you want to chop some shapes in your final, and again, it's not required, but it's something you can try, especially those of you who find 1-point perspective really, really easy. This is something to challenge you, okay? Now, when I'm chopping my shapes over here, if I have a curved surface, I just copy this line right here, and then I would erase what I don't need. If I have a triangle, I make sure that it's parallel to this line, so I just slide it over, making sure it's parallel or go in the same direction. And I do the same thing over here, making sure that it's parallel or go in the same direction. And then I erase the lines I don't need going towards my vanishing point. Okay, so you can practice chopping. And then what you'll need to do is connect all of your shapes to your practice vanishing point, your practice final on here. When you're all done with this, you're going to show it to the teacher so she can check and make sure you completely understand 1-point perspective. And then she'll give you your final 9x12 drawing paper for your final. You'll set it up exactly the same way with your vanishing point off center. And then if you want to change something, if you put art class but you don't want to put art class on your final, you can change that because you've already shown that you know how to do 1-point perspective. The second video I have will show you guys how to add color and shading onto your final 1-point perspective drawing. So once you finish this, again, show it to the teacher and she can get you your final paper for you to start.